I want to be happy, don't you? Hi, I'm Conchetta, cueing everybody to just be happy. This is the third episode of my podcast series. Do you ever feel like you're having a kind of life transformation? As the years go by, I think that may be the lovely surprise part of aging, when you sense some kind of major shift is going on inside you. You may not know exactly what it is yet, but it's important to listen to those feelings. I call them cues, messages we hear with our hearts. My whole being has been telling me aging is a gift many people don't get to have. I decided to take this bonus and, to the best of my ability, try to age happy. I was moved to begin writing about it, and then I wondered, what do I do with these articles? Would it help anyone else to hear it? Should I put it on YouTube? I called my friend Mark, who happens to be a brilliant writer, and asked, could I read something to you? If you hate what I wrote, please stop me. He listened quietly to the whole thing and said, this should be a podcast. Why would you want to shoot it for YouTube? You'd have to worry about lighting, makeup, your hair. That got me. I knew I'd drive myself crazy every week trying to fluff these curls. So, knowing absolutely nothing about podcasts, I called my friend Tony, who has a podcast. He sent links to tutorials and patiently responded to all my text questions. And then I bought a fancy microphone, but soon learned I couldn't just press record, talk into that thing, and upload it like email. Along with everything else, I also had to create artwork for a podcast album cover? Oh, no. I almost stopped right there, but, they say we're never too old to learn something new, right? I thought, why not try? Okay, first I needed a photograph for that album cover. Well, my friend Roxanne had recently taken a great selfie of the two of us at a restaurant, so I thought if I crop her out, I could use that photo. Then I learned I also needed a website. Okay, I bought 2 domains for my website and named them Conchetta Cues and Women of a Lovely Age. Even with tech support, I was up until 3 a.m. for weeks, frying my brain, working on that website, until I finally finished it. And I got to tell you, it felt amazing. Whatever your age, I encourage you to challenge your brain. Fry it up until it burns, because the real secret to the fountain of youth is learning something new. Mastering that stuff on my computer made me feel so energized and, dare I say, happy. With that part out of the way, I was ready to record my first episode and add a little music. I figured, how hard could that be? I soon discovered that's like saying, I know how to drive a car. I can pilot an airplane. How hard could that be? How hard? I have 2 words for you: GarageBand. Now, GarageBand is an Apple app that adds music to your podcast. After many nights trying to make sense of it, I never felt so stupid. I was beyond confused. Then I heard the Apple Store gives free classes in GarageBand. I immediately signed up for it. I took that same class 4 times and couldn't create anything sounding vaguely professional. By then, I'd written 3 episodes for my podcast, and they were still sitting in Microsoft Word, mercilessly mocking me. Let me tell you, GarageBand is not just an app. It's a special form of torture Apple invented to fry the brains of anyone over the age of 30. Now, I must say, everyone teaching that class at the Apple Store was incredibly helpful and incredibly young. Their brains move fast. The instructor put his finger on the screen and made his first move of the cursor. I thought I pointed to the same space on my iPad, but nothing moved. So I quickly scribbled a note for later with my trusty pencil, and when I looked up, his fingers, they must have made 10 more moves. He came over to help me, but when I took that class for the 4th time, I was the only student, so I finally admitted to my new instructor, Tariq, how hard it was for me to follow him on my iPad because it doesn't have a mouse. He took me over to a big desktop computer with a mouse and slowly explained what he was doing as I wrote it all down. He asked what my podcast was about. I explained we receive cues in life that are meant to move us forward, and if we miss them, we can go off in the wrong direction. But when you finally hear those cues, your life can begin again. To my surprise, he said he looked forward to hearing it. Well, that was encouraging, and after his lesson, I was ready to go home and add music to episode 1 on my own desktop computer. But despite all my notes, it was a mess. I'd press play, and I couldn't hear anything. I spent a whole week trying desperately to add the music. I remembered Franklin D. Roosevelt said, "When you come to the end of your rope, tie a knot and hang on." Hang on. My hands had rope burns from hanging on. It made me sad to give up, but, I just couldn't do it. I had one more class booked at Apple. They'd been so nice, I didn't want to not show up. The instructor that day recognized me, and he said, "This is the beginner class. It may be too basic for you." Too basic? I told him my last instructor, Tariq, had been terrific, but I see he's not here today. No, he's in the back. Let me see if he can come out and help you. Well, when I saw him, I was just about to explain why I would not be podcasting when he said, "Before we start, I have to thank you for the other day." Well, thank me? For what? Well, I hope you don't mind, but my friend was having a tough time. I remembered what you told me about cues, and it helped her a lot. So thank you. I thought, I've just been cued. In that moment, instead of giving up, I was ready to pick up Tariq's cue and begin again. I had a copy of episode 1 on my cell phone, and to my everlasting gratitude, he took me to a big desktop iMac and airdropped it into the dreaded GarageBand. Then he put the mouse in my hand and slowly talked me through it, saying, "If you do this yourself instead of watching me, you'll remember. It's called muscle memory." We listened to the music I selected, and with the patience of a saint, he walked me through it as I added 4 music tracks, learned how to increase volume, turn up the bass, add electric piano, drum tracks, fade out, and boom, it was done. He said, "We'll save it to the cloud." Okay, I don't think it's really on a cloud, but wherever he saved it, I was so happy. And then he showed me how to airdrop it to my computer when I got home and send it off to podcast land. So, for anyone out there who thinks you're too old or too dumb or too anything, you're not. When you come to the end of your rope, tie a knot and hang on. Cues are meant to move our lives forward, and they come from so many different places. They help us reinvent ourselves. We are never too old to decide who we want to be when we grow up. Hear those finger snaps? You've just been cued. Henry Ford said, "If you think you can do a thing or think you can't do a thing, you're right." I say, listen for the cue that says you can. Pick up those cues. I hope you'll meet me here again, and if you like what you heard, I publish a new podcast every 2 weeks. Please tell your friends. Until then, be happy. Why not?